If you came to this video with these 3 questions in mind, where should I start? Which materials should I use? And what should I do? My simple answer is this. Hi guys, my name is Linh, and today I'm gonna share with you guys how I taught myself English. Now, the title of this video is entirely clickbaity. What? Because I am by no means fluent in English. I am not even fluent in Vietnamese, so to speak, because on a daily basis, I stuttered, I stumbled on my own words, and sometimes I forgot what I need to say. Of course, when that transferred into my second language, which is English, I remained the same. However, I did successfully grab a 7.5 for IELTS speaking the first time I tried it back then in 2013. So I must have done something right. And I didn't know what was the right thing back then. I think I know now. And that is exactly what I'm going to share in this video. And so if you're interested in it, please bear with me. The first advice that I want to give to anyone who is trying to teach themselves English is to know yourself. Really know your strengths, your weaknesses, and your preferences. And don't tell me that you don't have any strengths, because you have. You just need to be fair to yourself. I know, it sounds really cliched, but trust me, creating your own profile before learning anything is really important. In case you are not ready to write right now, I'll show you a list of the weaknesses and strengths I had in 2010. Back then, I was a freshman at university, and like many other of my peers at the time, I hadn't been to an English-speaking country before. My family didn't have internet or cable TV until I was 16, which means I didn't watch English content growing up. Basically, before 2011, the only English that I was exposed to belonged to textbooks. And the textbooks looked like this. 12 years ago in Vietnam, even English textbooks were not as available and diverse as they are nowadays. Plus, English classes were really expensive. I did work part-time jobs to cover my own expenses, but classes at big English centers were just out of reach for me. Besides, in 2010, when I decided to learn English by myself, I had no prior interest in English at all. I am also an introvert, which means that I am scared of meeting strangers or talking to other people. And I had crooked teeth. Here is the footage of me before I had my braces. As you can see, there were so many gaps created by my front teeth, and that made English pronunciation extra difficult for me. So if you have beautiful teeth, don't take it for granted. List it as one of your strengths, okay? Now, talking about strengths. In 2010, I had a relatively good understanding of grammar rules because I did really spend time studying those in high school. And I could understand short texts, but it took me quite some time to do that. Secondly, I am very quick when it comes to utilizing new technologies. Thirdly, I have a good sense of hearing. I am also really good at remembering and recognizing pitch changes. And as can be seen from this channel and from this video, hopefully, I also have a very good imagination and visual thinking skills. I also experience periods of hyperfocus in which I'm obsessed over something and I can only think of that particular stuff in a short period of time. Talking about time, let's just go back and add like self-discipline here, because I'm not really good at disciplining myself. Now, in terms of preferences, I love arts, beauty, cooking, and books, and so many other topics. You obviously have your own preferences, right? Remember that you do not need to share your list to anyone else, so be honest with yourself. Pull out a piece of paper and write before we move on to the next part of the video. Why, you may ask?
Because it's all gonna make sense really soon.
After having my list of weaknesses, strengths, and preferences, the next thing that I would like to do is to design my learning system. Now, what do I mean when I say design? I would love to pick and choose methods that would help me achieve my goals.
Will you please elaborate?
So what are my goals? Take a look at this. I've talked about this so many times before, but here it is. With these 3 goals in mind, I would sit down and actually design my learning schedule and choose which methods I would like to use so that they would work for me. Let me show you what I did back then. I think I should give you a little background first. The reason why I suddenly decided to learn English in 2010 was to escape from college major I was not passionate about. After a phone call with one of my best friends who was studying abroad at the time, I imagined myself also studying in a foreign lecture hall elsewhere. And if I can't understand when my future professors and classmates talk to me, what's the point of learning English? I asked myself this question a lot before setting my first goal to being able to understand spoken English. It seems like even though the 19-year-old me knew nothing about language learning, I still had a pretty good start thanks to putting my heart at the right place. If back then I had set my eyes upon a specific certificate like IELTS, I would never be able to truly acquire English like I did. Anyway, when I set my goal to be comprehension, the biggest obstacle I had to face was a lack of exposure. This, coupled with the scarcity of materials, really forced me to be resourceful and creative. I literally scoured the internet for suitable materials, and when I say suitable, my standard was really low. If a video had subtitles, or if an audio had transcripts, and I could understand those written texts, they were good enough for me. I ended up choosing VOA Learning English, BBC Learning English, and a website called Storynori as my sources of English input. That website provided me with many records of fairy tales, which I had learned by heart in Vietnamese and could easily infer the meaning of the English versions. I didn't know how lucky I was, but my method of choosing materials turned out to be really beneficial, and I accidentally gave myself comprehensible input, resulting in the rapid improvement in my understanding of spoken English. In this day and age, though, you're not facing a shortage of resources like I did before. You have to deal with a surplus of information. Thousands of short videos with engaging content and subtitles are being produced and published every single day. Hundreds of English centers are posting and sharing materials to compete with each other for your attention. Therefore, instead of being resourceful like I did, you have to be critical. If you don't know how, please watch this video in which I share about my 4 filter questions when it comes to choosing the right materials. Now let's go back to what we are discussing. Basically, I used whatever materials were available to me at the time, and I had to make the best out of them. I could understand basic text, and understanding spoken English would not be so hard if I at least knew what was being spoken. Aimed with that belief, and with my skills with technologies, I downloaded a bunch of audio files into my MP3 player and saved the transcript into my PC. I listened to these audios 2 to 4 hours per day, non-stop. During the day, I listened subconsciously while walking around campus, cleaning, or cooking. In the evening, I listened intensely while observing the transcripts closely so that I could make a connection between words and the way they are pronounced. Once I got the hang of the sounds of spoken English, I moved on to the next step, which was to remember how these sounds are created. I know it sounds silly, but learning languages is actually a physical exercise. We have to make our facial muscles get used to producing strange sounds in our targeted language. The only way to achieve this is practice, a lot of it. How could I do that if I'm easily bored and can't discipline myself? Firstly, I utilize my hyper-focus ability to learn pronunciation in 2 days. Using a program I pirated from the internet called American Pronunciation Workshop, I kept repeating the vowels, then the consonants, then the double consonants, until I was satisfied with how I sounded. I didn't mind getting perfect. I was just concentrating on getting good before I felt bored out of it. Secondly, I learned to plan and organize my studying. This took a long way to go, and even now at the age of 31, I am still practicing self-discipline, but learning how to manage my time was a brilliant decision I made back then. What about applying and practicing? Having no access to English classes means that getting instant feedback from a teacher was impossible to me back then. However, I had come up with a solution that suited me well. I recorded myself practicing. Then after a while, I played those records, listened to them closely, and focused on recognizing and fixing the mistake that I made. It was a tedious process, made worse by my crooked teeth and my inability to pronounce certain sounds. But I didn't give up. It was also all I could do at the time to improve my enunciation skills. Now, in 2022, you have tons of apps that can give you instant feedback in just a fraction of a second. Back then, around 10 years ago, many YouTubers also advised people to go to places like Hoàn and seek out foreigners to practice English with them. However, since I am an introvert, I'd rather die than doing that. Instead, I chose to stay at home and use my imagination to talk to myself. I would pretend to make vlogs in English, to give interviews in English, to share about my emotions, and even to debate using English. I will never become an extrovert, but I've learned to overcome my shyness. I took part in an English club at my uni. I competed in contests. I tried to produce podcasts. It was a relentless journey. Now I look back at it. If you're wondering how could I work so hard if I had no interest in English at first? Well, after a while, I stopped forcing myself to love English. Instead, by using English to learn about what I love, eventually, I've come to realize the beauty of English itself. In other words, anything I could do to become better, I must have done it. And anything I couldn't change at that moment, I've learned to accept and take a longer way around that problem. Now we have it. These are the methods that I actually used back then in 2010 in order to teach myself English. And if you came to this video with these 3 questions in mind, where should I start? Which materials should I use? And what should I do? My simple answer is this. Start where you are. Use what you have. Do whatever you can. Just that simple. And at the end of the day, even when I had the right attitude towards learning and the right methods, in order to succeed with English, I still had to
study and practice years of it.
If you are one of those people who have watched so many videos sharing about methods and sharing about tips and tricks, and then you've tried so many methods before, but nothing ever worked for you, then the reason why is that those methods were designed to cater for that person in the video's needs. And if you pick up a method that doesn't match your profile, of course it's not going to work for you. And your job now is to actually sit down and really think about what you need to do and to design your own course of learning. That's the only one way. Alright, so I hope this video is useful for you somehow. And thank you for watching. If you don't mind, please like this video, share it, or comment down below so I know that you love it. And I will see you around. Bye!